Hi, my name is Ryane Adeniran, and this is Monday's Mindset. And I wanted to share something that I figured out during this season of social distancing. But before I share what it is I figured out, I have to first share about one of my goals coming into this year. Coming into 2020, I had quite a few goals, but obviously a lot of those goals have been on pause because of the pandemic. But one of my goals was to grow in being self-aware and in walking in the light. And I decided to do that by asking one of my dear friends, who's also one of my roommates, if we could just daily share our sin and what's going on in our heart and in our lives with each other. And we didn't want to make it like super exhaustive every night, but we decided to share like at least 3 things that we can come up with for the day. And when all this started, so say like a couple of days in, it was so funny because the night would end and we would be like, so didn't really go out much today, didn't interact with a lot of people. I'm having trouble thinking about anything. I guess I was impatient when I was waiting for my coffee to get done brewing. But obviously with time that has not been the case. And it's funny that the same character themes that kept arising pre-pandemic of my lack of integrity, my pride, my selfishness has made its way into the pandemic. And that's the thing that I figured out. I have figured out that my character follows me, which I know is not super revolutionary, but a few weeks ago when all of this started, I was talking to some of my single and dating friends, and they were like, this would be so much better if I were married and just stuck in the house with my best friend. And then last week I was on the phone with one of my married friends, and she was like, this would be so much better if I were single. And then of course there's like a number of us that kind of fall in between that spectrum of things. But something that we all have in common, whether it's our relationship status, whether we have toddlers at home, teenagers at home, whether we're widowed and at home with a pet or with our roommates and single, the one thing that we share in common is that we are stuck with ourselves. And that is one of the most humbling things that I've come to realize, that even within my 4 walls, I still have to grow in my honesty and in my selflessness and in my humility with serving and being giving to my roommates and doing my chores and being mindful of the interests of others and what they need as far as working from home and what's helpful for them to feel like that's the best situation for them all. And the other day I was on a walk, and I hadn't been outside in a while, so I was on the walk and the wind was just blowing against my face, and I was looking at some of the plants and I was like, wow, the wind is still blowing and the plants are still growing. And also not something that's super revolutionary, but I think it was just really cool for me to see that the wind and the plants were still being what it is God created them to be. The wind was still blowing and the plants were still growing, and that helped me to realize I can still be who it is that God has called me to be even during this time. And it makes me think of the scripture in 1 Peter that talks about be holy for I am holy. Because there's so many things that I want to do, so many puzzles I want to do, so many books that I want to read, so many recipes that I want to try. But I started to realize that at the end of all of this, all of that will be in vain if I'm not being who it is that God has created me to be, and that is to be holy even within my own home. And that has been a great change in my mindset, to know that at the end of this, nothing will be in vain if I can come out of this just being a little bit more like Jesus.